Let's make our way to the wonders of modern technology and through our app onto the fine place that is Waterford Treasures and to Eamonn McEneaney's good company. Eamonn, good morning to you, sir.
Morning, Ollie. Good morning, Maria.
Morning, Eamonn.
Strongbow and Aoife in the mine this morning?
That's right, yeah. Exactly 850 years ago this August, the 23rd of August, Strongbow laid siege to the city. So it's one of the biggest events in Irish history, completely and utterly.
Years.
Yeah, 850 years ago, completely and utterly changed the course of Irish history forever. The event took place, first of all, I suppose, not to be too revisionist, but a lot of people say that it was an invitation rather than an invasion at this stage. It did become an invasion later on. The King of Leinster, Dermot MacMurrough, was driven from his lands by other Irish kings. He had control of what used to be Viking Dublin. He now controlled Viking Dublin. He used to loan the King of England ships to help him attack the Welsh. When he was driven from the land, of course, he had no supporter here in Ireland, so he went off to France to meet the King of England, who was mainly interested in his French territories. He spoke French. He didn't speak English or anything like that, and he got permission to get mercenaries, and the only reason Strongbow helped him, he couldn't get mercenaries except for Strongbow. Strongbow had mismanaged his estates and his father had mismanaged them. His wife was dead. He was looking for a new wife. He was looking for a way of expanding his territories, and he said, sure, look at when Dermot MacMurrough offered him the hand of his daughter in marriage, he said, sure, this is an opportunity I'll take, and off he came to Ireland. Began an event that, as I said, changed the course of Irish history by making the siege in Waterford, and we're very lucky that we have details of the siege from a man called Gerald of Wales. He would have been very anti-Irish and very pro-Strongbow's family and all their relatives. Not very much a great supporter of the King of England, but that was only for personal reasons. He was looking for promotion in the church and he didn't get it.
Was he actually an eyewitness, Eamonn?
He was, yeah. He was over here. He wasn't there on the event, but he was over here twice, and he wrote two books actually about Ireland.
Oh, right.
One called the Conquest of Ireland, the other called the Geography of Ireland, or the Topography of Ireland. And he tells us that in order to get into the city, there was a wall, if you can imagine it, and even people from around the area will know the City Square shopping centre, where the front of City Square shopping centre is, on Arundel Square there was a ditch and a bank originally. In other words, you dig up the earth and you create a hole in the ground, and the upcast earth then forms a bank, and they put a fence on top of that, and that's what was the defences of the city.
Right.
But about 30 years earlier, Dermot MacMurrough attacked the city. He wanted to control Waterford as well, because the ports now were seen to be important. They built a stone wall along there, and it appears that they had a gateway over the stone wall, basically coming in from Arundel Square into High Street area, and what would have been High Street and what is still High Street, so it's all still there,
right,
in that sense, underground. And they tied ropes onto the props for the gate, or the house that it was probably a gatehouse that would protect the gate from attack. Somebody managed to sneak up and put ropes around those, and they pulled those down and effected an entry there. But interestingly, when the archaeologists were doing the excavations there, they found arrowheads, and they found two types: little spiky ones and the regular triangular ones. The regular triangular ones are for men and not wearing armour, and the spiky ones are for people wearing chainmail. So the people of Waterford, the defenders of Waterford, obviously, some of them were wearing chainmail, because we find a lot of those arrows in the ditch. They didn't manage to make it over the wall when they were attacking it first. And some of them are bent where they hit the stone wall.
Very interesting. It's amazing what you can tell from these objects, Eamonn.
It is, yeah, and it is really great. And of course, as everyone knows, then the besiege on the 23rd and 24th, they pulled down the gateway, ran into the city, and managed to capture it completely by the 25th. And then, of course, Dermot MacMurrough was a cute enough guy. He was out in the suburbs somewhere,
having a blaa,
waiting, having a blaa, and deciding that, or having a glass of wine, I'm sure, anyway,
yeah.
And deciding that he'd wait. And then they were married here, and it wouldn't have been a church ceremony as we know it today. There's that wonderful painting in the gallery. But, all you had to have in the Middle Ages was a witness. Formal marriages as we know them now. Once you could swear, you had a witness that the two of you exchanged vows. And, of course, that be the famous, and actually they became a power couple, and their daughter became when she married an great English lord, she became part of a great power couple as well. The women weren't to be assumed that they weren't powerful, particularly Irish women. They had their own. She didn't have to marry him, and they used to say, according to Irish law at the time, she could have divorced him, and one of the reasons she could divorce him was if his waist size increased from the day she married him. So that kept them all going to the gym.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Too many blaas and you're in trouble.
Too many blaas, and then of course they captured the city, and the old Viking people who lived here and who had married into the Irish at this stage and probably spoke Irish even at this stage.
More Irish than the Irish themselves.
Yeah, they were driven out of the city, and of course Henry II comes the next year. But I suppose the largest painting in Ireland is in the National Gallery. It's the Marriage of Strongbow and Aoife. It was originally intended for the House of Parliament in London. It never got there, and the idea was, of course, at the time, back in the 1850s, to celebrate the union of Ireland and England. And of course, what was the union represented in the persons of Strongbow being a Norman, Anglo-Norman lord, and Aoife being an Irish princess. And that's a beautiful big canvas, wonderful painting, and it's there now in the National Gallery for us all to see, but it's, of course, all made up, of course. It's just from the artist's imagination. So, but it's interesting, and interesting. The reason we think they were looking for a painting to depict the three different kingdoms, Scotland, Ireland and England, and the one for Ireland, it's a wonder they didn't pick the one, the defeat of William Vaughan's victory at the Battle of the Boyne would have certainly been politically...
Which was a really big deal, yeah.
Would have been a big deal and would have been politically suited a lot of people at the time to do that. And one of the reasons they picked the Marriage of Strongbow and Aoife, I'm convinced, is because Thomas Wise, from the Manor of St. John here in Waterford, was on the committee with Prince Albert for the rebuilding of the Houses of Parliament and the decoration of the Houses of Parliament. Yeah. And Thomas Wise probably said, look, we'll have a Waterford painting, so have the painting dealing with Waterford. So
a nod, wink, wink.
Wink, yeah. So, but of course, it was the great event of Irish
and a big deal, exactly that.
Yeah.
Eamonn, listen, thank you very much for that of a Friday morning. We do appreciate it, and have a great weekend yourself.
You too, yeah, and
See you,
Maria,
Eamonn, thanks,
and your listeners. Bye bye.
Eamonn McEneaney of Waterford Treasures.